Welcome friends to the online course titled Health, Safety and Environmental Management. Which we call as HSE in offshore and petroleum engineering. This lecture will be covered in 3 modules as you saw in the introductory web page of the course. In module 1, we are going to discuss environmental issues and their management. This is going to be the first lecture in module 1, where we will talk about introduction to problems related to environmental issues which arise because of offshore and petroleum industries. In module 1, we are going to cover the following topics. We will talk about the environmental impact and management, we will talk about impact of oil and gas industries which is caused in marine environment, we will discuss about oil hydrocarbons and their effects in marine environment. Let us say oil spills and their effects in marine environment. We will talk about chemical disposal of offshore industries. And their consequences in terms of environmental management. Then we will talk about variety of dispersion models. We will talk about atmospheric pollution. And we will also talk about hazard assessment which is caused due to environmental impact on offshore and oil industries. Ladies and gentlemen, let us first quickly ask a question: what are the primary environmental issues which bothers the environmental management which arise essentially from oil and gas industries? So, let us talk about primary issues. We must realize that there is a huge impact caused by the oil and gas industry on the shelf ecosystems and marine biological resources. So, there is a huge impact which is caused on 2 sectors by oil and gas industries. One is on the shelf ecosystems, the other is on the marine biological resources. Essentially, it disturbs the life hierarchy at different levels in ocean environment. The life hierarchy at different levels in ocean environment. It significantly influences the marine ecosystem. The biological consequences which arise from accidental oil spills. So, oil spills, though they are occurred because of accidents, result in serious biological consequences. And the most important issue related to this is they cause what is called irreversible impact. I mean, they cannot be corrected, that is very, very important. They cause irreversible effects on the ecosystem, which are very serious issues. So, that is one of the most primary concern what we have when we talk about environmental issues or factors influencing environmental management, which exclusively arise from oil and gas industries. There are of course certain visible consequences which one can see, which arise as a result from oil production. So, if you ask me what are the visible consequences which arise from the oil and gas production, let us quickly list them. What are they? The environmental pollution which is caused by the marine ecosystem creates complexities. Firstly, this results in uneven distribution of marine life. The marine life which has got a balanced geographical distribution is now disturbed, and it affects the concentration of the marine life especially in shelf and coastal zones. Because interestingly, these are the two areas now where people are focusing more on oil and gas production. And also, more interestingly, these are the two zones where 90% of the marine organisms actually habitate. Actually, they habitate here. So, therefore, if you disturb this particular area because of the activities resulting from oil and gas production, you are contributing or influencing majority of the marine commercial organism which are living in this specific sector. Interestingly, ladies and gentlemen, most of the oil and gas fields are also located in this zone. Therefore, they cause visible and serious ecological disturbances. To understand this further, let us try to understand what are recent trends in oil and gas resources. I mean, earlier where they have been deployed, the oil platforms and production units have been deployed. Now, what is the current trend? What is the research and development happening in terms of oil and gas resource identifications? To understand this, let us try to revisit the trends in oil and gas resources. Now, we are trying to address the oil and gas resource trend itself. We all know crude oil and natural gas. Two things are playing major role in contributing to the total energy produced in the world. this is still increasing due to the high demand and the increased consumption of this energy. So, their historical development is remarkable in terms of high dynamics. So, they have got to cater to high dynamics in demand, and therefore, they have to grow. There is a rapid technological progress which is happening in terms of exploiting the resources of crude oil and natural gas. We have also seen there is a wide geography of exploration going on. Which is taking place, and this has resulted in very wide production activities. Ladies and gentlemen, it is important for us to know that oil and gas production or resource identification is not concentrated only on certain segments of the world geographically. Now, in the present trend, you can see that there is a good wide variety of geographical distribution of exploration happening that has resulted in lot of production activities in a wider range. That is a recent trend what we should understand from the economical growth of the world. So, let us try to categorize this in a better understanding. Let us see what are the different sources of energy we have, what are the different sources of energy which we try to exploit, and let us say till about 1900s or 1990s or early 2000, what was the trend and what is going to happen optimally in another, let us say, 20 years. So, the essential source of energy could come from oil, it could come from coal, it could come from natural gas, can also come from renewable sources, wave energy, wind energy, etc. It can also of course come from nuclear power. If you look at this trend very briefly, let us say a good amount of percentage comes from oil and coal, and of course, a very feeble percentage from gas, and expected to have a good contribution about 40 to 45%, let us say 40 to 45%, which comes from nuclear power and renewable sources, that is expected to happen. But looking at the recent trend and some of the inventions and some of the consequences of certain source of energy which has been seen, it is projected in the literature that oil source will get depleted, coal will also get depleted further, gas will remain to say almost consistent, whereas the focus is towards increase in renewable energy and with lower focus to nuclear power. So, looking at this renewable sources getting more importance in the future optimization of energy development and energy resource identification, it is very clear that people have realized as on today that the consequences caused by the resources what you have deployed from various geographical explorations has caused serious consequences environmentally to both mankind and to ecosystems. So, you can see the reference here, my own book 2016B. Please look at the reference list available in the NPTEL website of this course, you will be able to get the detail of this. and try to see the authenticity of the specific report available from this textbook. So, this table gives us very important information that there has been a significant growth and relative stabilization in the recent past of these resources. There is also a projection noticed by William 1992 that there is going to be a decrease in oil production. In large regions. So, therefore, as a result of which hydrocarbon exploring fields located inland are now getting depleted. The hydrocarbon exploration fields which were located inland are now getting depleted because there is no oil reserve available, and dangerously this shift has moved or getting moved towards the shelf resources. From the inland it is moving towards the continental shelf. So, this shift from the inland towards continental shelf is seen as one of the significant effect which is going to cause ecological disturbance of marine organisms. So, if you look at Patin in 1999 in his report, he stated that the shift from the inland towards continental shelf will cause serious challenges to marine organisms and the ecosystem on the whole. One can ask me a question, what would be the technological know-how which is going to be improved for oil exploration from that of the inland waters to that of continental shelf? So, we should say that thanks to the new technologies in drilling, drilling is foreseen to become possible even in polar regions. So, the advanced technologies which are being planned to use for drilling in polar regions, and the latest equipments, because the conventional equipments which we have been using in inland is no more sufficient to use the continental shelf. So, the advanced technologies and the latest equipments which are being planned and developed for developing offshore hydrate resources are considered to be a serious threat to the marine organisms or in general to the marine environment. Many of the technical, mechanical and chemical techniques that have been followed for oil exploration, production, enhancement and processing are responsible for environmental issues. So, there are techniques which people follow by mechanical means, by chemical means in oil exploration in different sector, starting from exploration, production, recovery and processing, or recovery enhancement and processing. In all these sectors where there has been substantial advancements used in technologies and equipments together create serious threat to the marine environment in general. So, these are the reasons why environmental issues have become a predominant talk of the day when you talk about oil and gas industries. We can give some examples on this. Let us list some examples which are responsible or which are expected to be responsible or good contributors for environmental issues which exclusively arise only from oil and gas industries. Hot water pumping, introduction of inhibitors, for example, methanol, they have been identified by the researchers as serious challenges to the marine environment. Now, let us see how we have disturbed the total marine ecosystem by introducing or by overloading the exploratory measures into continental shelf. The continental shelf, which used to be the main arena for shipping, and fishing, is now transferred to a main resource for exploring oil and gas. So, this is a very interesting shift which mankind has done in the thirst of increasing or meeting the demand for oil and gas sector, which has moved the exploration essentially from the inland to the continental shelf areas, which predominantly used to be a main arena for shipping and fishing. If you look at the literature and the recent trends, you will come to know that the prospective location of oil and gas fields in the shelf zones have started overlapping the regions with high biological productivity. Wherever there has been good amount of fishing production happening, these fields, these areas geographically has been now overlapped by oil and gas exploration sector, which is one of the important concern on environmental issues which arise essentially from this industry. Adding to this, the recent exploration of gas hydrates, which has become a very promising area, is unfortunately, I should say, is also found in the marine regions. So, the exploration of gas hydrates is also being found in the marine regions, is an added threat now. So, their development in terms of gas hydrate fields are presently seen as a potential threat to the marine environment. Now, let us ask a question: what is the anthropogenic impact of hydrosphere which is caused by oil and gas industries? So, I am talking about the anthropogenic impact, cost impact of hydrosphere caused by oil and gas industries. Anthropogenic impact refers to assessing the state of hydrosphere and water ecosystems. So, if you want to analyze and assess the condition of the existing hydrosphere and water ecosystem, I call that as anthropogenic assessment. Now, I am looking at the impact caused on the hydrosphere because of oil and gas industries. So, to understand this, let us try to know what are those factors which influence such impact analysis. So, anthropogenic impact essentially depends on many factors it causes changes in temperature regime, it creates a radioactive background, it discharges toxic effluents, inflow of nutrients, irretrievable water consumption, damage of water organisms during seismic surveys, landing of commercial species and their cultivation, and destruction of shoreline. Let us try to understand how this impact is analyzed and studied in different sectors. Let us divide the different regions geographically into three parts: local, regional and global. Let us divide the impact assessment in three parts. Let us say local, regional and global. Let us talk about different activities which are present during hydrocarbon exploration. Let us take the first activity. Let us say liquid and waste and solid waste discharge. As one of the activity which used to happen, which is very common in case of hydrocarbon exploration. Let us try to see what is the influence of this in terms of ecological and fishery and sanitary hygienic point. Let us say hygienic point, ecological point and in fisheries point of view. Locally they are weakly represented. There is no impact in the regional level, again there is weak. Of course, the discharge is completely local, therefore there is no global effect, is absent. In terms of ecological impact, if you look at the fisheries, again there is a weak representation because the liquid and solid waste discharge which happens from the drilling system or from the oil exploration production system is highly local and is also weakly represented. So, it is concentrated. Whereas, if you look at the subsea pipeline, there is another activity which may essentially cause chemical pollution. It is responsible for chemical pollution. In the local sector, it has a very considerable impact because a high volume of chemical may be discharged from the leak pipes which are very important, and in the fishery sector regionally it causes very high impact. The next activity which is also bothering is the offshore structure abandonment. Let us say the offshore structure if you want to abandon a structure, want to discard a structure. For example, the structure located in a specific space is of no use because oil exploration is completely exploited and completed there, and you have to get rid of the system, what we call decommissioning or abandonment. The abandonment causes a very considerable impact both in local and regional level for fisheries. The fourth could be accidents which do happen in oil and gas industries. They also cause chemical pollution, They create a very hygienic impact in the local sector significantly. The ecological disturbance is very high in the local sector, whereas in regional and global they are not represented. And in the fisheries sector, in the local sector, they have a very high impact. So, different activities starting from liquid and solid waste discharge, laying, maintaining subsea pipelines, offshore structures discarding or abandonment, and accidents. They have different impact in ecosystems which we divided into 3 regions or 3 sectors, which is local, regional and global, and we studied this. We understood their effect on 3 different levels, that is in hygienic perspective, in ecological perspective, in fisheries perspective, where we have summarized that these are the impacts caused by these activities which essentially arise only from oil and gas exploration or hydrocarbon production systems. If you now consider the anthropogenic impact on hydrosphere by land oil and gas production, so far we have been seeing the offshore part of it. If we really wanted to see what is the effect of the land oil and gas production system on anthropogenic effect or impact on hydrosphere, anthropogenic impact on hydrosphere caused by on land oil and gas production system. The earlier one what we saw was the offshore production system. So, now this activity can be oil pollution, which can have in the hygienic perspective or in the ecological perspective or in the fisheries perspective. Locally the damage is very high, where the oil pollution is being notified. It affects locally the ecological disturbance of the system very high significantly. It does not spread to the region, it does not spread globally at all. However, in the fisheries sector the local impact is significant, it also has a regional impact. Subsea pipelines are also laid for on land oil and gas production, which results in chemical pollution. Their local impact in hygienic perspective is very high. Their local impact in ecological perspective is very high, and the local impact in fisheries perspective is also very high. So, there are different areas both offshore and on land oil and gas production, different activities contribute to different levels of hygiene, ecological and fisheries disturbances caused at 3 levels: local, regional and global. So, of course, this comparative discussion tells you only a qualitative value or comparable value between these in terms of different perspectives. Quantitatively, these values will also be discussed in the subsequent lectures, but it is very important to note that how the activities of oil and gas industries start affecting from the local to that of global or regional in different perspectives. It affects the mammal culture, it disturbs the ecological system, it also affects the hygienic and social system, sanitary system very seriously in different activities what we just now discussed in the blackboard. So, ladies and gentlemen, in this lecture we are trying to identify different causes for environmental management or crisis which is arising from exclusively oil and gas industries or from hydrocarbon production systems. We are trying to see what are the factors which influences the ecological disturbances which pick and choosingly arise only from hydrocarbon production systems. We will also discuss in later part of the lectures how they can be managed, how they can be modeled, how they can be controlled, how they can be assessed, which we will discuss in subsequent lectures in this module. So, in the first module we are talking about environmental management issues. In the first lecture we just introduced what are the factors that are responsible for ecological disturbances that essentially arise from oil and gas production systems. Thank you very much.